Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining another episode of Connecting Conversations. I am delighted that we are joined today by an honourable guest, Wads. Wads, thank you so much for being part of Connecting Conversations. I'm going to say again, as this is not your first time. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. A bit cold, but I'm not too bad, thank you.
Honestly, I feel like we've gone from one extreme weather kind of heat wave to
100%.
absolute winter style in the space of a week. I'm already in the knitwear already, but hey, this is the joy of being in England. Wads, it's so good to have you. The last time you were with us, you were sharing a little bit about yourself, your company, Breaking the Stigma. Tell us a little about yourself in terms of what you do and how you've got involved with advocating for the mental health space, really.
So hi everyone. I'm Wadzie, founder of the Breaking the Stigma UK. So Breaking the Stigma aims to break the stigma and raise awareness around mental health within those underrepresented communities. So by underrepresented communities, we look more into like the BAME communities, so the Black, Asian, and ethnic minority communities as well, and also covering men alongside that as well, because the highest kind of suicide rates is within men, and also hospital admission is within men as well. So what we're trying to do is raise that awareness that it's okay not to be okay at times, to discover those signs and symptoms early enough to know that you need to do something about it. So it's just a space of where we bring that awareness to individuals. So that's whether through YouTube. So I've got a YouTube channel where I post conversations on there with others. Just started a new podcast called Tea and Talk as well. So got quite a few guests on there that will come on, share lived experiences as well, and just kind of talk about what mental health means to them and raising awareness through that. We used to do some workshops as well, so looking to start that again, doing some workshops. So it's just kind of, that's what Breaking the Stigma is. And what kind of inspired me to start Breaking the Stigma is just being myself, from being in the underrepresented community, being a Black African girl. It's kind of, I saw that stigma within my own community as well. And so it just kind of inspired me to be like, this is a conversation that is missing and that needs to be had amongst the community. I had lived experience as well, so again, that's what also then inspired me. So I was like, this is a conversation that needs to be had. We need to talk about it. It needs to be more open, because I went through with that stigma as well, like, oh, I can't talk about how I feel because of this and this and this. But I was like, no, there's no problem with talking about it. It's better to talk about it now before it gets to the point of where it's like you can't talk about it anymore, unfortunately. So that's where I formed Breaking the Stigma, and that's hopefully reached out to a lot more people and saved a lot more lives as well.
Gosh, I am already so inspired just listening to what you did. I think on so many levels you represent kind of like I think this is the model to follow. And I think you carry different weight and authority when you are starting something and you want to help people, because it's a lived experience. And we also know that, like, even though my story is never also just for me, but if it will actually be a tool to help someone else,
100%.
It takes on a different level of influence and impact and kind of drive. And I think it's a very exposing thing to do. Like you say, like, it has been historically, seen as a stigma kind of issue. Anything to do with mental health. We're only living in maybe the last decade where this has been more embraced as, like, we need to talk about it, we need to value it more, we need to safeguard it more, we need to put in plans even within our workplaces about accommodating and, if not helping, preventative measures before it gets really bad. But it takes courage to be someone to step into the space, like, I will go and facilitate for another person because I know what it was like when it wasn't there for me. And that's just really, really, like, amazing. I also wanted to talk about, like, you said that it's my story that went there. And I think this is what has kind of aligned us as a kindred kind of spirit, isn't it? Because here at Cohesia Connect, we're all about amplifying the truth of other people's stories. This is the real power tool and you were using the same principle to advocate probably, and is supporting so many different people in the space occupying. And we've mentioned before that this is not your first time being on Connected Conversation, so it's really amazing to have you as a second time guest. But what has been the journey for you since our first conversation? You were so encouraging, you advocated a lot for, you know, in terms of especially underrepresented groups that you've listed earlier. What's that journey been like since that first conversation? How has that evolved? Because it was just after COVID and the world all over looks different, doesn't it? Tell us what that's been like for you.
It's not been easy, I must say. I did put a break on Breaking the Stigma, never mind the pun. I did put a pause to it as I went into a space of where I was figuring out me. And one of the biggest thing I always talk about, and probably people are sick and tired of on my YouTube channel, is imposter syndrome.
But still a major issue across the board, right?
It is a major issue, really. So I went through a phase of, what am I doing with this Breaking the Stigma? Why am I doing this? There's a lot of people out there who have got YouTube channels or who are inspiring other people on a day-to-day basis already. So I went through just a phase of like, you know what, forget it. What are you doing? Like, and not even just with Breaking the Stigma, with every other aspect of my life as well. It was just kind of like, you know, just to kind of put it bluntly, I'm this young Black African girl, and I don't know what I'm doing, where I'm headed, and what's going on. I don't know what my life right now is looking like. My head was just, I need to make money. I need to be able to pay my bills. You know, and I just need to be able to just live my life as a 28 at that time year old girl. And it's just like, that was just it. That's what was my main focus. And I was like, you know what, I just need to forget Breaking the Stigma for now. Maybe I might pick it up later on, you know. And I kept getting people going, why are you not doing Breaking the Stigma anymore? I was like, oh, no, it'll come. Oh, hey, no, it will come. No, it'll come. And, you know, I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. But with that, you know, I realized that I was pushing it out of the way because I was scared as well, in a way. Again, what I'm saying, imposter syndrome is like, there's loads of other people out there inspiring other people. What makes me so different? But it took me a while to kind of be like, look, no, yes, there is other people out there doing that, but find what is you, like what makes you different, what makes you stand out from other people, and what makes you truly happy. And once that, especially that last question of what makes me truly happy, was the one of where it was like, okay, this is where I need to find myself. Because in July I went through a breakdown of, I broke down to myself. I was just like, I've had enough. You know, the mental health advocate broke down, and it was just like, I've just had enough. I was overthinking a lot. Even though I was going through a lot of other things within my own life. Anyway, I just kind of just thought to myself, what am I doing? Why am I here? What is my purpose? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know what's going on. And being from an African background, I've finished uni, I've done my undergraduate, I've done my masters, I've done all the school the main school that needs to be done. Yeah. You know, what's next? Okay, so now I need my husband, but then I've come out of some failed relationships. I failed then. You know, I've told myself I'm a failure. I'm in a job that I'm not 100% happy in, but you know, it was just like, you know, I know I need to pay my bills, and this is what I need. I know what I need to do. So it just got to the point of where everything just got on top of me. My own thoughts were consuming me. All the other pressures of life were consuming me as well. And it was just, I just broke down in July, like, and that's the honest truth. And I don't shy away from my breakdown that I had, because I feel like that breakdown really helped me find who I truly am and what makes me happy. And it was just laughing earlier with my friend going, I think I had a pre-midlife crisis. And then as well, because it was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I really, really don't know. So within all of that, just after that breakdown, I was like, you know what? Okay, it's time to be serious. You know what you want. You know you want to be an entrepreneur. You know you want to spread awareness for mental health. This is what you want to do. How are you going to get it? Bought myself a tablet. I was like, you know what? This is going to force you, and it has. But it's a bought myself a new tablet. I was like, you know what? Happy birthday to me. Happy post breakdown to you, to me. Everything like that. I was like, you know what? Time to brand new, fresh start. Let's go. Brand new page. What are you going to do differently with Breaking the Stigma? And that's when the idea of the podcast came along. I was like, okay, I like having these engaging conversations. I want to share my experience, but I didn't want to as well sit in front of a camera going, yeah, no, I went through this and I went, and I was like, you know what, it's time to have those engaging conversations with other people as well, to hear about what they're going through and inspire other people through that as well. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be able to get a lot more guests on there as well, sharing their experiences, or people coming on just giving their own advice, giving their own 2 pence. And I'll want to pick up the workshops thing again, but maybe early next year. But hopefully to pick up the workshops again. That's what people have been asking me for again, like, oh, we need more workshops like this. So it's all in the pipeline. Watch the space, Carla. It's all coming along nicely.
I just respect so much like your honesty and transparency of this journey, because I think a lot of people look at the polished version that we're presenting of our companies, of our movement, of our initiatives that we're doing, and it can appear like it's all polished, and it needs to be. We have a standard of excellence and we want to present like we're serious about what we do. But what it costs in between one picture to the next is a whole load of life sometimes. And I really respect how you said also about it is really important to take a look at actually what is fueling. And I know you mentioned and dropped the word imposter syndrome or comparison, which is, the widely known saying that it's the thief of all joy. So true. Where is my space if it looks like there's so many spaces there? Firstly, I remember somebody said to me, like, we've always had taxis, but like, look, we've got 2 other companies like Uber and Lyft that are also the same kind of thing. They're just packaged differently, but they're essentially providing the same service, but they are serving people. It's I think what that perspective looks like to an individual, and also I just want to speak about what you said and pick up on your point that you said. There is so much, I think, pressure on this generation because, and I certainly feel this too, and I'm definitely a couple of years older than you, considerably older than you, but it doesn't negate that the challenges are any different. I think it is literally our last kind of generation, our parents' generation, that had a life kind of like that was set by expectations in society that looked a certain way, but that was our only reference. And then this world that we've been occupying has changed drastically in such a short space of time. I would say maybe in 15 years. Legislation looks different. What society thinks is acceptable as normal is different. We are bombarded with, views of the world, philosophies of the world through our media and all this kind of thing. And it's perpetuating, like, yes, some parts of us are still pulling us to follow the reference of our mother's era, which was, make sure that you've done this. There's also the cultural pull, like you mentioned, coming from an African background. More often than not, you find like you need to have tick the boxes. This is what's expected, particularly, and also whichever birth order you're in. Let's not even go into that one. Right. And then outside of that, it's like, but then I'm still expecting you to come home culturally to fulfill roles that we ascribe to what your gender should be doing. But I'm also living in a world that's telling me you should be prioritizing what all the choices that our predecessors fought for. And that's what you should be living and striving for. Forget all this domestic stuff. Forget all these other things that, quite frankly, are, I would like to say, still quite natural to many people, and they still want to pursue those roles they find fulfilling. And we're here to advocate there is absolutely space for both. But that is a difficult line to balance, because who am I living for now? What purpose am I? What should my life look like if these are what the comparisons are? These are what the standards are, and quite frankly, they don't seem sustainable to be able to do all of that to a level that anybody here is going to feel happy. Because if I pursue one thing wholeheartedly, that means something else has to take a backseat, at least for a little while. And I think as women in society, like that expectation, I think is kind of grueling. We hear about this everywhere. And you are someone that's sitting in the very space where not only have you kind of experienced like, I can't take that pressure, like I need to just stop, but also how many people will relate to that. I relate to that. And it's just people, it's impacted people, I think, on different levels. It's impacted people in different depths, you know. And I just want to thank you that you never gave up at that point, because that is so paralyzing, isn't it? The way you describe it. It can stop me right here on something that I know I'm supposed to do. It can stop me right here without moving on. And can you imagine all the other people who would not be benefiting from the richness that you are meant to bring with your voice into this space that you so uniquely know? People, I need Wadze's workshops. I think that's a sign, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it wild how these challenges, there's so much more to building a business. There's so much more to entrepreneurship than it is like what you see on the bottom line. It's literally people's lifeblood, what they're pouring heart and soul. This is their real essence of self into trying to build something, especially if you're purpose driven. Like it sounds like you really, really are. I feel like I've spoken a lot there, but does that kind of resonate with a little bit about what you're saying? I'm so encouraged just to hear your story.
No. Oh, thank you very much. I'm very much of that, the purpose driven, and I'm glad I didn't give up. Even that I was at that point of even taking my own life. That's how much I'd hit rock bottom. But I just looked at it as, you know what, it's sometimes I think of it, once you've hit rock bottom, sometimes the only way is up. It's like you've hit that ultimate rock bottom. And one thing I'm always saying I'm so grateful for is my family and the support network that I have around me. I have managed to surround myself now, I'd say now, with individuals who I know are there for me as much as I'm there for them as well. So I've built that support network. I've built boundaries, established boundaries. That's another problem I had previously, pre-breakdown. So that's another problem I had, was establishing healthy boundaries, I should say. Right. I was always a yes person, and within being a yes person, I was doing things I necessarily didn't want to do, or found difficult doing, or anything like that, all because I wanted to please someone else.
Yeah.
And I believe that also then stems from as well being kind of growing up in an African household, in terms of where I don't want to say, oh, please your pet, but yeah, it was like, just please your parents. Like, you just want to make sure that they're happy and everything. I'm doing something that brings them joy, to make sure they're always proud of me. And it's just, as a human, as a person as well, growing up, I think I struggled to break that and separate that with, yes, I can do A, B, C, and D to make my parents happy and ensure that I'm making them proud. But then I don't need to bring parts of it into my other relationships as well. I need to establish those kind of other healthy boundaries and learn how to say no. In my whole life, of 29 years being on this earth, I struggled with saying no. And anywhere, everywhere, it was, no, that's fine. Oh, because I didn't want to let people down. I didn't want to let someone down. I didn't want to. And again, it was just that establishing that healthy boundaries as well. I found that was really important. And to anyone else watching, I would really just love to just evaluate yourself before you get to a point of where it's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And that's where I'm trying to as well inspire other people, especially young people as well, is be able to establish those healthy boundaries, be able to learn how to say no and when to say no as well. As well, just to make sure that you are truly happy. And I said, I'm glad that I didn't give up as well. I just said, I need to take a step back. I need to reevaluate exactly what I'm doing and what's for me, and what's not for me, what makes Wadzie happy, what doesn't make Wadzie happy. Is there anything else that may be in the middle that potentially is more important doesn't necessarily make me happy. Doesn't, there's certain things where it's like, okay, what exactly do I need to do? What maybe uncomfortable things that I may need to do as well to push myself? Because again, it's not all, like you said, it's not always going to be a bed of roses all the time. It's not always like, yeah, I'm gonna, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be doing this, especially with setting yourself up as an entrepreneur. It's not always going to be a bed of roses. You're gonna have to put yourself out there, have potentially do something uncomfortable that you might not even have dreamed of doing, and be like, oh, that's not me. But for you to get to here where you want to get to, you have to go through that journey. But like within that journey as well, it's about you then. I feel like once you've discovered yourself and who you are, you've managed, how to put those healthy boundaries in place, and if it'll be okay. It'll be a bit of and with I want to say with us, like especially within females, it's a little bit difficult as well at times to just bring yourself out there and put yourself out there, because we have a lot as well going. Not saying that men don't have a lot as well, let's not discriminate, but with women we also do have a lot of emotions going on, a lot of hormones going on, a lot of other things, like you said, the societal pressures and everything going, like hitting you left, right and center. But once you find your true self, what truly makes you happy, what is it that you are going to, what brings you joy, what are you comfortable doing, what are you not comfortable doing, how can you get to where you are? And that I think you're going to hear the most in this conversation is establishing healthy boundaries.
I'm so glad that you raised that, because that's something that I think, historically speaking, the associations are is I need to make sure that the people externally know where the line is and they can't come to me. What you're talking about, and what I think I've also learned as well in this journey, because like you're saying, it requires us to grow up and kind of mature more, and this is part of that growing process, is that the idea of establishing healthy boundaries isn't just about making sure that other people know these are the limits. And I think that's really tough, as you say, where there are, internal family dynamics and culture that just comes with an expectation. We've just rolled into these kind of dynamics at home, that this is the kind of way that you will always respond to mothers, fathers, sisters. This is the role I play in the family, which is definitely, I think, true for everyone. I call it the crazy dance of every family. That's what I call it. You're going to do the crazy dance.
Yeah.
Like, what also happens is, like, I'm actually the gatekeeper of my life. So the healthy boundary setting is actually me. I need to put, like you said, learn how to say no. Like, this is a really great idea. Unfortunately, this isn't going to work this time, but I can maybe provide you an alternative solution.
Yeah.
It's affirming that, like, I can recognize someone else as a need. It's a compliment that maybe they can recognize that I might be able to meet it. But it's okay for me not to have to feel obligated to do that if I don't have capacity. And it's really down to us. Like, I am the gatekeeper of who is allowed to firstly occupy space, free space in my head, and make me feel a certain way. I get to choose that. And that is it's not an easy process. And I think you've already alluded to this, like, that kind of growth is painful. It is complex, because all of a sudden, if I've woken up to actually I'm the gatekeeper, but I've been living a pattern for so long, no one else is aware that I've had this enlightenment, and probably they've benefited from it in some shapes or form. And how do I then start doing it? But they will. There is a way to be able to do that. I think it's so important. I want to bring up, like, this is, we've got you here. It's just incredible, all the real, like, precious gems that I think you're dropping. And I know it's going to help so many people that come across this conversation.
I hope so, yeah.
Like, it's also Black History Month this month, and you occupy mental health space. You mentioned that your work is also quite focused on those in the Black and ethnic minority groups. What nuances do you feel like this particular month carries for people advocating in your space? What does that mean for you?
Well, it's a weird question, only because I'm a strong believer of it shouldn't be a month. So when people ask me this question, I get a bit like, oh, okay, what do I say? Only because it's nice, yeah, with all everything. It's a month where it's mostly focused on, but it's also we are. It needs to be an ongoing conversation and advocacy, and it needs to be something that needs to be ongoing. So for me, if you check on all my social media platforms, I've not posted anything to say Black History Month or anything like that. Only because I'm not saying that I'm not a fan of it, but like at the same time, it's just I'm not. I believe that it shouldn't be just. So why are we being celebrated in a month? Why is it? It's just a month. It should be an on everywhere, all around. I'm not just saying in the UK, everywhere. Black history should be celebrated, and it shouldn't just take a month for individuals to advocate even more for something. We should be advocating it even more for. It should be advocated even more all throughout the year. It's even certain things like I promise I don't have a problem. It's certain days like World Mental Health Day as well, or World Mental Health Awareness Week. It's like you push so much within 1 week or within 1 day. Why? You should be all year round. That, like, for example, within work, let's put workplaces into for example. Let's use that for example. It comes to World Mental Health Day. All of a sudden, it's wellness of employees. We need to do this. We need to do that. Boom, 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 boom. Ends. Silence. And then it's like, okay, Mental Health Awareness Week. Right, okay, what you do to take care of yourself this week is Mental Health Awareness Week. This, boom, 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 boom. Silence. What about the well-being of employees in January? What about the in February? What about in March? What is it about? You're not gonna just take a week to like implement all these things, and maybe you're having, I don't know, free ice cream for the whole week for employees because it's Mental Health Awareness Week. You're trying to bring the well-being. Why can't you bring free ice cream in July or something like that?
When they really need it, because it's so hot.
I mean, Carla, we live in England, so it might be September.
We had some great heat this year. We have to give it that. But I know exactly what you're saying. There is the susceptibility for it to kind of, fall into tokenism. And these issues are ongoing. And yes, I think you shared, particularly like your passion is underrepresented groups, because culturally, and from your experience you shared, like we have seen, like there's different challenges as to what mental health sources would be kind of triggered by necessarily than potentially other cultures. And that's important to talk about. This is not focused on this month because it happens to be Black History Month. These are things that people that have my shade or your shade or different kind of shades of hue are having to engage with every single day that they wake up, or in seasons for long periods of time. It's not great. Black History Month is here. There is acknowledgement, there's observance. And to be fair, I personally fall on the side of where I think it's a good start. I don't dismiss it entirely. It's a great conversation starter. And I think for someone who, like for me personally, I recognize myself as a mixed race person, and I dangle between two lines, having families that have a family that looks very different. If you were to look at us all together, we are the rainbow. And I guess I call that a superpower in the sense that it gives me an opportunity to be more of a bridge. And I, growing up, and I think this is so true, like in what you're saying in terms of it can't just be, I've got a provision for you, take box, move on. But for me, when I was growing up, I cannot remember ever having Black History Month acknowledged in my school education. It's only later when I became a teacher and saw that even, in my teaching career, which wasn't really that like long ago before we started Cohesia Connect, but the fact that it wasn't acknowledged in some of the schools that I had seen and other schools that I had in community with, it wasn't even present there. That was heartbreaking for me, because like, well, how else will we even start this connection? How can we even build the bridge to open the conversation? But I absolutely agree with you. It's not the be all and end all. It's not sufficient. It is not. These are still very real people dealing with very real issues. all the days of them every month, different times of the
Yeah.
month, different, you know, it looks different there, and we need to have an awareness of that for sure. And like you said, even yes, Black History Month is one thing, but mental health is another thing. Again, this is not something that should be token for the 1 week of ice cream. It's
Yeah.
got to be something that we're engaging with all the time. I'd like to say
Yeah.
that I'm hopeful that people are taking this really seriously in workplaces, in the
Yeah.
profession. What are we doing to create like work-life balance for our employees now? It's actually quite a big thing.
Yeah.
A lot of companies, I think, are recognizing that if we don't have policies in place that look and appear, that
100%.
we've made provisions to cater for safeguarding mental health and really enabling, you know, the best well-being for our workers, people don't want to apply for it to us. We are missing out on talent pools that we can't afford. It's good to hear that that is now a new mindset, that an approach that businesses are taking on board, but still very new. And this is why people like
Very
this
new.
big business helping them out to make sure that they're navigating.
Yeah,
It can
definitely.
feel a bit like a minefield in a really helpful and holistic way. What would you
Yeah.
say, in your opinion? You know, it's also, you know, like we've spoken of, there's some hope to some of the things that we're seeing, the evolvement of what mental health is, kind of the stage that it's now having in like
Mhm.
mainstream visibility. What would you say has been positive impact of the mental health drive current in society? What good things have you seen come of it of recent?
Definitely the conversations that have been now had. What I love now that I'm seeing a lot more is football clubs doing
Wow.
adverts, advocating for mental health, and there is a lot. It's mixed as well. It's, you know, you've got white men, you've got black men, you've got mixed race men talking about mental health as well.
Yeah.
And it's that diversity as well, to show that everyone, even though it's like with men, like obviously football is
Yeah.
predominantly for men, um, showing that diversity within men as well, saying, so it's showing that it's not just the black man that suffers, or not just the white man or the Asian man that suffers, it's all men that suffer. And that conversation that's already been had. And
Amazing.
even with, so that it makes my heart so full that at least there is something now that
Yeah.
is out there, and that the conversations are being had, and there's a lot more now funding going in towards mental health services, and just to promote, especially within people within the black and ethnic minority groups as well. So there's a lot of things happening as well. I've now recently come across a lot more charities as well, doing a bit more focused work on that as well. So it's just amazing. I've seen, like, just, I mean, just starting the conversation is just absolutely amazing. And like I said, I feel like it's bringing more of that. Look, we can have these conversations. In everyone can talk about this, even on Twitter that I've seen people having conversation about mental health. I think I saw one guy just post, "How is everyone today?" And I'll be honest, if you need to speak, my inbox is open. And I was like, I can't imagine that happening a few years ago. And people were actually commenting and not trolling or anything. It was like people actually going, "Oh, I'm having a great time," you know, or
Amazing.
people were actually being honest as well. Some people were like, "I'm not feeling great today," but you know, and people were commenting like, "Oh, giving some encouraging words and advice and everything." And I was just like, wow, this is a different world we are in now. So things have definitely changed. Things have advanced. Everything is being recognized now, a lot more as well. And as well, just kind of going back to about workplaces as well, in
Mhm.
terms of implementing that change. Um, Two of the companies that I work for, very big corporate companies as well, they all me just went,
Mm.
you know what, we need to start like well-being, talking about well-being, and came up with the most humblest name, Wadsy's Wellbeing Wednesday. I promise you, I'm humble.
It all rhymes. I like that.
Yeah. So
Oh.
I've I've gone and had that conversation of where been like, look, we can have a day where a Wednesday, whether it's weekly, fortnightly, monthly, where staff come on and we don't talk about work. It's literally soon as that time comes, whatever time it's starting, for that hour, not about work, we are talking about well-being. We're talking about how we can look after our well-being. We're sharing ideas. We're asking each other how you're feeling. We're having just that conversation. And it's always been received very well. Like, I've never had a manager turn around to me and be like, no, sorry, you can't do that. Everyone's just been like, you know what, that's really great. Yeah, you know, it's fine. You facilitate it. You do what you need to do. I'll get everyone on board. And we've had like the rest of the company jumping on it, being on board. And
amazing. Everyone's catching the fire. Love it.
You literally, so it's absolutely amazing seeing that, where we are moving away from the day or the week of, like, you know, so just, you know, focusing on like talking about mental health or talking about mental well-being. It's now being widely accepted, and like you said as well, like with the whole Black History Month as well, it's a start. And yes, as much as I still think, oh yeah, you know, it shouldn't just be confined to a month, there is also those conversations happening, like things like Cohesia Connect, you know, having those conversations with different individuals from different backgrounds, showcasing that, you know, inspiring other people that, you know, you can, no matter what your background is, no matter what you've done, you can still make something of yourself and become the best version of yourself. I've seen, you know, you guys have had so many interesting conversations, so many people who I've never would have thought of or anything like that. And again, like I say, it's then moving away from that week or from that month, and it's like broadening it, and those conversations are starting to, it's being recognized outside of the different different spaces as well. It's just being that wider recognition. So just kind of going back to your question, I feel absolutely delighted that conversations are now being had. And what I'm seeing, because I'm also Christian faith, churches are starting to recognize mental health as not not being you know, possessed, or not being, you know, or not praying hard enough or anything like that, and especially within those African churches. And I'm glad to see that it's also now they're starting to recognize that you can go to Jesus and a therapist as well. So even that as well in itself, it's taken years, but at least it's now that recognition of like, okay, yep, you can go through certain things in life that can lead you to be like this, but then you can also seek help from God, but then you can also seek help from a therapist as well. And I went as well, just kind of a little bit side, like I needed to receive some therapy myself, but I prayed. So this was going a few years back. I was going through some changes in my life. I wouldn't say I was like depressed, or I just wanted to navigate a few things in my life and just needed some guidance. And I prayed. I was like, you know what, God, like, I want to receive help, and I don't know why. I'm feeling a little bit lost at the moment. I just need a bit of help. I need a bit of guidance. And when I tell you, it was a God-sent therapist. She was a God-sent therapist. She literally was of Christian faith, and she was telling me she's the only Christian in her family, and she was telling me her history that turned into a therapist. And you know, she got backlash from like her other Christian faith friends, like, oh, you know, you're supposed to be, you know, and like you're becoming a therapist, but Jesus is the ultimate therapist, and things like that. And also receiving backlash from her family and everything. But what I then, with her, she kind of gave me the practical kind of advice of, okay, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do that. And then after every session, we would pray. And she would pray, she'd be like, okay, and then she wouldn't, within that as well, she'll then encourage me to pray. So my Christian faith grew, and my practical knowledge of how to navigate through things in life grew as well. So it was just kind of like, it went hand in hand. So then that's when I also then, pardon?
I was like, it's just so interesting that like, it's really refreshing to hear someone speak about their experience where there's both room for faith and kind of just like therapy, and as well as navigating it through like scientific help and support, which is a really big deal. And I think, like you say, like historically speaking, there's potentially been like kind of, it's taboo even within like church environments, or historically within church or religious faith environments, because there is a reliance on the element of the divine, and this should be your number one source of things. And where the idea is that both things can be true, we're also living in a world that, if we were to look around, isn't exactly the best place. Our health impacts our mental well-being. The environment that we're in affects our mental well-being. The food that we're eating that we don't know how it's been kind of processed is impacting our well-being. People don't know that these are other elements, and it doesn't, like you say, mean that one disqualifies the other. There is room for both, and you need both in terms of navigating that. I think even people in the church would go to a doctor. This is a similar thing, but seeing it 100%. As like something that requires that kind of approach, like it's a medical issue. It is something that needs to be nursed and nurtured and taken care of, and there's a therapy in which to get you to health. They coexist together. I think what you're talking about in terms of just the extent of growth is so encouraging. I love the fact that your work is so affirmed in your workplace, so people are catching, like I said, the fire, and they're rolling with it. And you've mentioned, like, even what you said there, like, it's so good to see specifically like such support of men coming forward, where this is actually a dark space for them in terms of what we see as one of the biggest killers of our men just in society in general, isn't it? Sticks you to that. But like, it's also Black History Month, and the theme for this year is saluting our sisters. In which way have you seen like the girls are stepping into this space in a progressive way? Have you seen that? What's that been like?
Personally, I haven't seen it within myself. Like, I knew maybe because my work focuses more on like, looking at men. But in terms of even with the whole theme of I think I'll just take that within my personal life of whole the saluting the sisters, and I've seen a lot more female supporting each other as well. Just kind of being, I've seen a lot more collaborative working within females, and for me as well, within my work as well, I just try and reach out to anyone and everyone. I could be like, oh, please help me with this, or come on, this, do this with me, and things like that. And it's quite difficult because people are just, like, I wouldn't say, like, you get some people, actually, let me say, where just like, oh no, actually, I need to look after my baby. This is my project, and I don't want anyone else involved. But I've seen a lot more Black sisters and individuals supporting each other, and a lot more collaborative working. Like, I've seen a lot more network meetings happening, just like female networking meetings, and things like that, having like CEOs going to those network meetings as well. I've seen a lot more sisters inspiring each other, and things like that as well. So, and for me personally, I've got a lot of sisters that support me, and
amazing.
Try and build me up as well. A lot of my friends who I call my family now as well, just created that community where it's like that supportive community as well. So yeah, I have seen the whole like working together and coming out a lot more, seeing a lot more collaborative. I can't say the word now. Collaboration within the community, and especially I've been reaching out to a lot more as well, sisters as well, to even though, like I said, my work does focus on men, but I don't limit myself because mental health affects everyone. So I have reached out to a lot more other females as well, to other Black females, to let's work together, let's bring you on, let's talk about your own experiences, what advice would you give other people. And I've had really good feedback of people be like, yeah, you know what, that's really good, let's do it. Mental health needs to be spoken about. Yeah, you know what, let's do it. I'd love to talk about my lived experience, share what's going on. And even I've had on my podcast, my first podcast was a lovely lady called Tedro, who's now turned life coach. And again, she was so receptive to just coming on, and we just literally had one conversation. She's like, yep, I'm doing it. We're doing it next week. I was like, oh, okay.
That's so affirming to hear that. Wads, this has been so incredible to talk to you and to hear just the wealth of what even you have learned from your own experience. It's one thing that you kind of use the tool of using people's real life stories, but to hear that you've actually used the real life story of your own life to empower you to get to the next level is someone who's clearly practicing what they're preaching. And I think that is such an encouraging and inspiring model to follow. So I want to thank you for that. Any final words that you can give us as we draw to a close for this amazing conversation? What can people do in terms of like self-care and diligence in safeguarding their mental health right now?
If you need to take the time out, take it out. And that's one thing that I did, is just take that time out from social life. And sometimes people confuse it. Sometimes taking yourself out of certain things and situations, people think, you know, oh no, it's a negative. They look at it as a negative. Again, there's that stigma of like, oh no, that person. But sometimes you need to take yourself out of that situation or out of the situation and just take a breather and take time to find yourself. So do not be afraid to take yourself out of certain situations and put yourself first. So you just remove yourself completely from whatever is going on. If you need to take that time off work, like I said, now there's a lot more conversations happening about people looking after their mental health or mental well-being. So if you need to take that time off work, and when you take that time off work, use it wisely to find yourself as well. Take your time off those social situations that you might need to take yourself out of just taking time to yourself. There's no problem with admitting that you're not okay. There's no problem with admitting that things are not going well for you right now, and you just need to take that time to yourself and you take that space to yourself. And whilst you're taking that time and space to yourself, ensuring that you're establishing those healthy boundaries as well, and those healthy relationships with individuals, ensuring that you are surrounded with by people of love and who are there to support you. Don't take yourself out of the situation and then just isolate yourself completely off to everyone. Ensure you at least have one or two people who are there to give you that support. And if anyone out there is suffering from imposter syndrome, like I was, it's a real thing.
To the club.
Welcome to the club. It is a real thing. However, I can guarantee you that you belong where you want to be, and just go out there and just give it a go. Just try it. And the beauty about this world is, even if it doesn't work out, that's fine. It's still okay. You can always try the next thing.
Yes,
so
I love that.
Just don't be too hard on yourself.
Wise words there, Wads. Thank you so much. This has been an incredible conversation. And
no, thank you for having me.
We will make sure that you are linked into a kind of context if people want to find out more about Wads' work. This is so inspiring. There is someone who is creating the space. Come and take a seat at the table, I think is the ending invitation. Isn't that correct? Wads, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you. And hopefully we'll get to see you again and the update of what's happening with Breaking the Stigma. Take care, Wads. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.